Man, why is there such division within Christianity on the topic of old Earth versus young Earth?
It's a good question. Not only the age of the Earth, but things like a global flood versus a local flood. So essentially, it's a debate over whether Genesis is allegorical or literal.
Right.
Well, I've delved into these arguments over the years, and I've come to realize that we can talk until we're blue in the face on these opposing views. You get Christians arguing back and forth, and you'll hear them often affirm that this isn't an issue of salvation, and that they argue these things in love.
Right.
But you got the other worldviews like agnostics, atheists, or other religions that poo-poo on the debate entirely because, as far as they're concerned, if we can't come to an agreement on it, then the whole book isn't worth taking seriously. But despite my opinion on whether Genesis is literal or allegorical, I find some things concerning regarding some Christians and even others outside of Christianity's allegiance to a specific worldview. And I can sum it up in one word:
What's that?
passivity. Going along with the masses to avoid being singled out.
What do you mean?
Well, I don't know about you, but I just went through a pandemic where masses of people formed a mob against individuals who decided against a certain medical choice, with big tech censoring opposing opinions from doctors and scientists around the globe to push one agenda. How many of us just went along with it because we didn't want to face that same bullying?
I suppose you got a point there.
Our human nature is to repel against exposing ourselves to public embarrassment. And what I see regarding this topic, maybe not from all, but from a lot of Christians, is an unwillingness to attach themselves to a biblical worldview that takes the words from Genesis literally because they think the secular mob will expose them as unintelligent or irrational. For me, and what makes my ears perk up, are people who are willing to take the heat, who are okay with being blackballed by bullies in our culture. Someone like Dr. Jason Lisle, a PhD astrophysicist who has theorized the distant starlight problem that harmonizes with a young Earth interpretation. Dr. Marcus Ross, a PhD paleontologist. And I could go on, as there are many highly educated individuals who put their neck on the chopping block, so to speak. But my point is, I'm more inclined to believe the person who has a lot to lose rather than the person who is just one of the mob.
So you're saying Christians who adhere to an old Earth belief, they're being bullied into believing it?
All I'm saying is that the foundation of Scripture has been attacked for decades, as science seems to explain away any need for a belief in God. Our human hearts want to explain away God. We don't want to stand accountable to a God who says we can't live in the sin we enjoy. So of course our institutions are vulnerable to this attack on the biblical worldview. This is what our human nature wants. No wonder this has become an intellectual mob that people get sucked into. But is that science? Is science about performing all these mental gymnastics to create our own desired outcomes?
But we all do have our biases, even Christians who take Genesis literally.
It's true, so you better take a look at their bias. What do they have to gain? Certainly not praise from the societal mob. Look at them and their arguments on a case-to-case basis. Draw your own conclusions. But the point is, think for yourself. Don't be intimidated because an expert told you something. Experts are flawed human beings too.